programmed, as you have recently thought, to forget the encounter.
You were programmed to forget the encounter. How many times have you heard that in relationship to those who've been abducted, or perhaps those who are claiming to be contactees? I find this to be a very common occurrence, that memories are omitted. Individual have an experience. Now, this doesn't apply to everybody, obviously, but quite a few. I've heard, like I said, I've heard that many times. I'd like to discuss the idea of the spiritual hierarchy in the soul contracts that they have. And it's sort of like you have one tier, and then you have an agreement that is made, and then so on and so on and so on, till it gets to the point to where the ones in the lower aspect of that tier don't even know who they're working for, because they have so many bosses in between. And that's the reason why it seems so confusing in regards to a lot of different ET activity, where you'll have a particular being come into a room, as an example, and manifest itself and begin some kind of dialogue with the individual that's in the room, and then perhaps another being comes in, and which pretty much scares off that being that was there to begin with, and they let the individual know that what that was going on there wasn't acceptable. What I see behind that is basically hierarchy, but mainly what I see behind that is contracts and particular beings going rogue to try to fulfill their contracts or to get out of their contracts, and other beings sort of like the police squad trying to enforce that the status quo in relationship to those contracts are fulfilled. And like I said, you have all these tier layers for contractors, general contractor contracting out to do a job, and then that to a subcontractor, then so on and so forth, and on and on and on and on and on. Again, like I said, it's like after a while they don't even know who they're working for, and they don't even know why they have to fulfill what they need to fulfill in regards to their contracts. They just know that this is something that's required of them. At least that's what they've been convinced of. So you have a lot of really a lot of activity in respect to certain occurrences, as the example that I gave actually, that was taken from a real situation, where we have this just ongoing thing, and we're caught in the middle of all this mess here. Obviously, we're part of the whole scenario. You have certain beings that are trying to help because it helps them. So what they'll do in certain cases is that they'll provide you with certain information that's beneficial for them. They will not give you any more than you need, because it's not for you to know the bigger picture. They're limited based on what they know, and they're obligated to keep it to a minimum concerning those things that they pass on down to you. The only reason for you to know what you know is because you become a need to know in order to help the agenda. No other reason. So like you would have in the military, compartmentalization, you have that on the higher realm as well, but much more and more intensely organized and greatly more diverse. Then you have certain beings that are trying to help in order to flip the polarity here on this planet and move from this 3D experience, which is supposed to be temporary, was supposed to be temporary. They're trying to help us in the process to be able to cause the polarity to shift or to flip, spiritual polarity, that is. so that it can move from this to one of light, which would help them, well, they would be freed from their captors or their responsibility under the guise of the ones that are manipulating and controlling them. And what those beings that come to mind concerning that is the Zeta Reticuli 2 beings, where it supposedly was captured during the Orion War, and they were taken into captivity. The females were killed, and the males were genetically manipulated so they would no longer have reproductive organs. So collectively, over a long period of time, that race created a hive consciousness in order to remove the emotional body and to remove the emotions from the body so that they could survive as a race. And there's very few of them left, from what I understand. This is the story that's been told to me through Alex Collier, by the way. And there was only 2,100 of those gray Zeta Reticuli 2 grays left. Everything else has been clones, and the abductions and all that stuff taking place has been through the clones. And the clones, we have the military, the industrial complex, the black operations have the use of those clones. They call them PLFs, programmed life forms. And so, you know, their agenda to help us is to help themselves. So nobody's really doing anything or that's involved with anything here that is not doing something that's for their own benefit. They're like pretty much a lot within the spiritual hierarchy. You have marching orders, you know. And within that Godhead realm or kingdom, you have, you know, multi-layers of synthetic light constructs, which was originally developed through the use of the Merkaba light construct. George Kasavasilis, if you go on my channel and look in the playlists, you'll see a couple of his videos, one dealing with Jehovah and one dealing with synthetic light constructs. Click on that one concerning synthetic light constructs, because he explains it a lot better than I do. And anyhow, so you have these universes, like with universes within universes. And as I mentioned in my last video, if you would go into one of those not knowing, not aware of that, what it was, how would you know that there's anything other than that? You know, because it's so enormous. So you have all this subdivisions within this kingdom that is, like I said, it's enormous. It's just, and you have all these different beings that have been integrated within that kingdom rule. And they're living out these soul contracts and stuff and these commitments and everything. And it just, that's the reason why what we have going on here, down here on this planet with the reincarnation thing. Reincarnation is not meant to occur. Incarnation is meant to occur. Because with incarnation, you have all your memories intact. And you go from lifetime to lifetime without losing anything. And then again, we're dealing with the genetic manipulation of this vessel, and there's just so much behind all this, and I don't want to go into all that. But point is that I see a lot of manipulation going on in agenda-driven things in regards to the ET contacts, because they all say pretty much, the majority of what I hear is pretty much the same thing. And that was really the goal behind doing the series concerning the spiritual hierarchy. It was to point out that they're communicating the same things, and it's definitely agenda driven. And what can we do for ourselves? You know, one thing is to renounce our soul contracts, but you know, I guess what it boils down to is it's a personal endeavor. It'd be nice to be able to do things collectively, but based on what I read in the comment sections, and most of all what I experience around me every day, I just don't see that happening. You know, people are so far removed from the truth and who they are and their identity. their belief systems has allowed them to be consumed. And, you cannot not have a belief system. It just depends on what you're believing is what matters. You cannot not choose. Everything is a choice that's been made, even if you don't make the choice. You've made a choice. To be disconcerted or uncertain or doubtful just puts you in a place of jeopardy, because what you're doing is you're exercising a conviction, because that's a belief system. When you say, I'm not sure, well, that's your belief system. And when you do that, you set yourself up to be manipulated. It's so easy to be manipulated because we manipulate ourselves every day. How is that? Through programming. We program ourselves every day to eat certain foods, to do this, to do that. And eventually it's at a point where you just react. You're not thinking about anything. You're just carrying it out because it's a habit pattern. Same thing for things that are subtle within the subconscious within you, the way you think, little mannerisms, certain things, the way that you respond to stuff. You condition yourself to react or to respond to certain things a certain way, and if over a period of time you've programmed yourself to behave that way. So programming, we do this all the time. To live in your mind and live in your body and live in the flesh, which most people do, they're subject to that all the time. But to live in your heart or spirit, you're discerning, you're aware, and you're balanced, and you're in peace, and you're living in the moment. You're not living, ahead of time or in the past. You're right there in the moment, which makes you aware of what's actually truly occurring. So, what are we going to do? Well, like I said, first thing we can do is take a personal application to the information that we have and act on it. You can't doubt yourself. You can't be uncertain. You must know who you are, and you're not going to know it through your mind. You're going to know it through your heart, and there's a lot of things that are obstructing that, and you have to work through it. If you keep going outside of yourself for validation, you'll never know. Because like I said, we program and manipulate ourselves every day. Mostly because we're just not conscious of it. We just do it. The idea is to be conscious of what you're doing. And be aware that if you do that to yourself, how easy is it for another being outside of this to be able to manipulate that situation that you're going through, or you, and while you're sleeping, because you emit a certain vibration. And let's just be honest, vibrational things attract to one another of the same sort. If you're walking around in doubt and confusion and uncertainty, you're going to attract those things to you. And you're going to cause beings to come and manipulate you and use you. You're setting yourself up. So, I don't know. I felt it necessary to say these things, so eventually I'll get back to the series Spiritual Hierarchy. Again, the whole reason for that was just to point out that they're all saying the same things, just different. It's just said differently, but it's the same thing, pretty much. So, we have to take personal responsibility. It'd be nice to be able to do this collectively, but like I said, I don't see very much evidence for that. So get around people that are like-minded and like-hearted, so that you can become more of a powerful unit, so to speak. It's really important to be around like-minded individuals. So, peace, everybody.